Welcome to SVG-TV News for Thursday, September 28, 2023. I'm Rochelle Batiste with the details. St. Vincent and the Grenadines and other Caribbean countries are currently experiencing a marine heat wave, which is causing serious stress on coral reefs. This is according to marine biologist Dr. Owen Day, who told SVG-TV News today that for the last 6 years, he has been working with coral restoration programs in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and what he has noticed this year is very heartbreaking. Dr. Day said there is a serious problem of coral bleaching seen in the northern part of mainland St. Vincent and Miro and Petit St. Vincent in the southern Grenadines.
This year, as we all know, there's been some very abnormally high temperatures. So everybody's been feeling the heat, and the sea has also been experiencing some very, very abnormal high temperatures. It's a marine heat wave that's been affecting the whole of the Caribbean. And the amount of heating that's happened is probably the greatest since 2010. In fact, it's going to probably be more than that soon. And the problem with this marine heat wave is that the corals particularly are really struggling. And we're seeing the beginning of what could be a major coral bleaching event. And I've been filming for the last week around St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and very upsetting to see so many corals really struggling, really being affected by the heat. And some species of coral that are very rare that we're working with in particular look really in trouble. So this is really a kind of reminder, a visual alarm call really, that climate change is with us right now. It's happening, and that if we don't prevent it from getting any worse globally, this is a global problem, we will see some radical changes in our marine environment.
A coral reef is an underwater ecosystem characterized by reef-building corals. Reefs are a form of colonies of coral polyps held together by calcium carbonate. According to Dr. Day, marine heat can destroy coral reefs, which can have serious effect on the tourism and fisheries sector. He said it can also make the shoreline more vulnerable to sea level rise.
And in the Caribbean, there's about 60 different species of coral, which grow and create these amazing structures which provide shelter for fish and lobsters and an enormous number of species that live on coral reefs. So they are incredibly valuable ecosystems for the Caribbean. They're valuable for tourism, they're valuable for fisheries because they provide incredible habitat for juvenile fish and adult fish, and of course they protect the shoreline. So if you have a big storm, it's often the coral reefs that will absorb the wave energy and protect the shore from erosion or damage. So in terms of the value, they are by far the most valuable ecosystem on the planet. There have been studies looking at how valuable they are, and the average is around $300,000 per hectare per year. The reefs could disappear within even my lifetime or our children's lifetime. This is what many scientists are saying. So it's really critical that we protect them. And I'm not talking about it just purely because I'm a marine biologist and I love these ecosystems, but from an economic point of view. If islands lose their coral reefs, they'll lose the sand on their beaches. The white sand that you see on many beaches is produced by coral reefs, not the black sand, which is from volcanic ash, which I also like, but many people prefer white sand. So white sand comes from reefs. Obviously diving on reefs is very valuable, snorkeling, the tours you have in the Tobago Keys or around the coastline. It's the reefs that provide the value. It's what people have come to see. So that would be very, very damaging to the tourism industry. Fisheries also would suffer terribly. And as I said, also coastal protection would be affected. So the shoreline would be much more vulnerable to sea level rise and to storms.
The marine biologist said it is important that residents are made aware of this serious problem, noting that action is needed now to help reduce the stress on the coral reefs around the island.
One of the things that we can do to help coral reefs is to reduce any stresses. So if there's pollution, we need to get rid of pollution. If there's overfishing, we need to manage that so there's not overfishing. We need to basically, first of all, reduce any impacts on coral reefs that can cause them to be pushed over the edge, so to speak. So climate change is going to make their survival much harder because of the high temperatures. So we want to reduce the other stresses that we can manage. Like, as I said, like pollution from the land, from sewage. Yachts sometimes pollute as well. So we need to really try and minimize the amount of pollution. And fishing, we need to protect parrotfish, which are really important for keeping reefs clean. They eat the algae. They're very important for the health of coral reefs. But in addition to that, we can also start restoration programs. So we can start building nurseries and propagating corals that are more resilient. And this is what I've been doing with partners in the Eastern Caribbean for the last few years. And there's a lot of international donors interested in helping in this area of restoring coral populations with more resilient genotypes, it's called. We try to find the families of coral that are more able to adapt to higher temperatures.
The Ministry of Education today released the updated preliminary results of the May-June 2023 Caribbean Examinations Council Secondary Education Certificate Examination CSEC, which it says will receive on September 20th, 2023. This year, 2,133 candidates were registered. Of these, 1,486 were school candidates and 647 were private candidates. There were 1,472 school candidates from 27 secondary schools scheduled to sit papers 1 and 2, with 10,277 subject entries in 31 subject areas. The ministry says approximately 72.16% of the subject entries were awarded grades 1 to 3. The corresponding figure in 2022 was 66.55%. The preliminary results this year show 17.57% of the passes were at grade 1 level, 38.48% at grade 2, and 43.95% at grade 3. The figures in 2022 was 16.96% at grade 1, 35.40% at grade 2, and 47.64% at grade 3. There were 7 schools which recorded percentage pass rates of 80% or more. These schools are Girls High School with 98.84%, the St. Vincent Grammar School 93.32%, the St. Martin's Secondary 93.17%, Thomas Saunders Secondary 92.76%, the Canawan Secondary with 89.86%, St. Joseph Convent Kingstown 89.72%, and the Beckwith Seventh-day Adventist with 86.73%. 7 schools obtained credible pass rates between 60% and 80%. These schools are the St. Joseph Convent Maracua 78.02%, the North Union Secondary 76.21%, Mountain View Adventist Academy 72.78%, the Bucomment Bay Secondary 69.31%, Bishop's College Kingstown 68.12%, and the Sinclair Dakin Secondary 63.55%, and Barley Secondary 63.48%. The preliminary results show the Beckwith Community High, the BCHS, and the West St. George Secondary show improvement in their performance at the 2023 CSEC examinations. In 2022, the BCHS recorded a pass rate of 27.6%, and the West St. George Secondary School recorded a pass rate of 31.28%. In 2023, the BCHS pass rate increased to 54.26%, and the West St. George Secondary pass rate rose to 55.22%. The ministry says these figures represent an increase of 26.62% and 23.94% respectively. The top female performer at CSEC 2023 for SVG is Nyla Jack of the Girls High School, who sat 14 subjects and obtained 11 grade 1s and 3 grade 2s. The top male performer is O'Neill Sprott of the St. Vincent Grammar School, who sat 13 subjects and obtained 10 grade 1s and 3 grade 2s. The Ministry of Education and National Reconciliation congratulates all students and extends gratitude to the principals, teachers, and staff at all schools for their support of the students. And leader of the opposition, Dr. Godwin Friday, has reiterated his call for technical and vocational education to be well integrated in the country's education system. At a news conference earlier this week, Dr. Friday said this is one of several recommendations he made during an address on education last year in order for every student to have an opportunity for a comprehensive education and to equip them with the skills and technical attitudes that are needed for jobs and economic development.
Secondly, to earn the CBQ certification, candidates must demonstrate competence in reaching CARICOM-approved occupational standards developed by industry experts and employers in a range from level 1 to 5. Thirdly, I suggested or recommended, we must ensure competency-based curricula linked to the CBQ framework to be established in all secondary schools and other suitable settings in the workplace and the wider community. Further, we must establish a qualification framework to enable learners to move seamlessly between academic and vocational qualifications in formal and informal educational settings. This will include apprenticeships for on-the-job training. We must also revamp and expand the YES program. You heard me talk about that during the election campaign, and I repeated it in my national address on education. To revamp and expand the YES program to provide opportunity for real on-the-job training, not just make work, in public and private sectors, while earning a living wage paid partly by government and partly by private employers. The proposal there was, and still is, that you have the YES program expanded to the private sector, and the government would continue to pay the portion that it says that it would do, and the private employer will pay a part of it, so that the employee, the young person, can afford to come to work. They can afford to buy lunch. They can afford to buy clothes to go to work. In the present program, that is a near impossibility.
Dr. Friday said there's also a need for increasing opportunity for lifelong learning through vigorous and well-managed continued educational programs.
So important, because we understand that so many of our young people drop out of secondary school when they get to Form 2 or Form 3. What happens to them? Later on, a few years later, they may wish to continue in the education. Traditionally, some teachers have said you had your chance, you blew it, so therefore you're on your own. But we need to be able to continue to provide opportunities and to expand and build up the continuing education program so that those persons will be able to have the opportunity to improve their skills and to find meaningful work in the economy, in an area that they have seen to be a benefit to them and are willing to work and to put in the effort to complete the training. Those opportunities must always be available. Otherwise, we lose the skill and the talents of our people, and they become less productive and unable to contribute to our national development in the way that we need them to. But I would say this, and you'd hear me speak more on it, because I'm very concerned by the way in which the education system is being touted as this tremendous success, yet we see there are so many gaps and so many people who don't benefit in the way that they should from it. We need to be bold and to go further with TVET, technical and vocational education, to signal a real transition in our education system to focus on the needs of our young people and the needs of our economy as it exists in St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And you will hear me say more about that as we go forward.
The opposition leader said more attention must also be paid in teaching agriculture, both at the primary and secondary level.
An agricultural nation. There's some people seem to think that we have transcended that and we don't need that agriculture anymore. I don't believe that. I believe that we have tremendous potential in that area, but we must continue to foster skills and interest in agriculture, using new techniques and more productive techniques, of course, but we have to start with the teaching of them in our primary and secondary schools. Further, to develop the whole person, you hear a lot of is said about that, but not enough is being done. To develop the whole person and to promote our national culture, art, music, dance, and other forms of cultural expression must be regarded not merely as options, but as essential components of a modern education system and of a modern education for our young people. So they must be taught at all levels and in all schools and to everyone. I look forward to engaging in an honest, and I say honest because that is what is required. I look forward to engaging in an honest, far-ranging national conversation about the changes that we need to make in our education system to make it relevant and more useful for all of our people and for our society.
Approximately 1,200 houses were repaired and 60 were rebuilt on the northern side of mainland St. Vincent after the impact of the eruption of La Soufrière volcano in 2021. This was disclosed by Deputy Prime Minister and Area Representative Montgomery Daniel, who was speaking at the handing over ceremony for 21 houses in Orange Hill on Tuesday to residents who lost their homes as a result of the volcanic eruption.
After the all clear was given from the volcanic eruption, NEMO's team came out and did an assessment of the damages that were done in this area. And although the report indicated that some 670 or so houses were damaged, where approximately 107 houses needed to be repaired on site, and some 68 houses needed to be relocated, I want to say to you that even though that was the report that came to the cabinet, 670 houses were damaged. I want to say to you that this government has already repaired over 1,200 houses. So that the report, yes, would have captured what was immediate, but then as the people came back and they came into their homes, the actual damage was seen. And so 1,200 houses were already repaired and approximately 60 houses were already being rebuilt on site.
Minister Daniel said that he hears the cries of the people in the North Windward constituency and the government is working to assist them as best as possible.
The Minister of Housing indicated that last year we have already built and relocated 27 families of 68 of these houses that initially was in the report to be relocated. And today, of that 68 number, we have here another 21 houses, set of houses, to which we are adding to that number, 27 and 21, would make us 48 of the 68 houses to be relocated. And of course, there is another 28 houses that are being built at this time in Sandy Bay. These houses will be handed over very soon. But I want to say to a number of persons who have come here today that I know of their cry. Because not only 1,200 homes are to be repaired, there are another 600 or so homes to complete that renovation. And through the Ministry of Housing, we are awaiting for the materials to complete the task of another 600 homes or so.
The 21 houses handed over this week are in addition to 27 houses built in Orange Hill, which have already been handed over, and an additional 20 houses are being built in Sandy Bay for the volcano-affected residents. In news now, we hear that St. Vincent and the Grenadines is currently being positioned to make better use of advancing technology to strengthen its economy through improved efficiency in the way government conducts business with the public. This expected improved efficiency will come through the St. Vincent and the Grenadines leg of the Caribbean digital transformation project, which is also being carried out in several OECS countries, namely Grenada, St. Lucia, and Dominica. Over the past 2 years, significant work has been done on the $30 million World Bank sponsored 5-year project. Project coordinator Winston George describes a digital transformation as the use of information communication technology to transform services.
We do a number of things manually. Digital transformation could be found in your mobile phone. Before, we used to have this desk phone. We no longer move the phone. In those days, we could not be mobile, moving the phone and going anywhere with us. So what ICTs provide for is that they cut down space and time and allow the individual to access different services of convenience and so forth. So in a sense, what we are hoping to do, a lot of things that we do now in terms of accessing public services, we have to travel, we have to line up, the digital or information communication technology allows us to cut down that space and time. So for example, a farmer, it is envisioned, may want to pay his driver's license, but he is somewhere in his farm, but he has connectivity to the network, he has a mobile phone, and he can make a payment for his driver's license on time without moving from his farm to go to Kingstown to spend time in the line. And what that does, it provides, basically opportunity costs. So he could spend more time on his farm producing and getting an income. So that is, in a nutshell, an example of how we could actually transform.
In addition to providing digital public services to citizens and businesses, the project is also aimed at making government operations more efficient. Other stakeholders in the project include businesses and regional partners such as ECTEL, the ACCB, and CARICOM Impacts. Government departments on the ground that are involved in the implementation of the project include the Information Technology Services, the ITSD of the Inland Revenue Department, the Customs and Excise Department, the Civil and Land Registries, Land and Surveys Department, the Electoral and Passport Officers, and the Treasury. These departments are expected to contribute and benefit significantly from the implementation of the project. Activities being done at the regional level include the development of the necessary policy, legal, and regulatory frameworks, as well as the provision of other support to the project.
At the ECCB, they're looking at payment systems in terms of e-payments and so on, establishment of an instant payment system that you could use different modes of making digital payments. You also have, they are also addressing the matter of data protection and privacy. So as much as the citizens or businesses get more in terms of a digital footprint, you need to establish, privacy. You also need to protect people's data. And also another component at the regional level that we are looking at is cybersecurity. At the national level, we are expected to set up, also address cybersecurity, set up what we call a computer emergency response team. So, you deal with things such as hacking and all that sort of thing.
Several major undertakings are also underway locally as work on the project progresses. These include the validation of a digital transformation strategy. Prime Minister Dr. Ralph Gonsalves has again condemned what he deems as senseless attacks being perpetrated against Cuban professionals here. On the radio yesterday, Prime Minister Gonsalves noted that in less than 3 months, there's been 4 attacks against the Cubans and urged the perpetrators to desist from such action.
Remember when these incidents were happening, and I said that we also have to give consideration as to whether these incidents are isolated, and each may have its own genesis, but whether they're not connected to foreign operators who want to destabilize the country, and in this case destabilize the strong relationships which exist between Cuba and St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Of course, the Cuban government, despite these incidents, they have formally expressed full confidence in the leadership of this country, our people and our government, and that we remain united by close ties of friendship and brotherhood and sisterhood. And they have made it plain that if the purpose of these actions is to intimidate them, they reiterate that Cuba will continue to support St. Vincent and the Grenadines in its efforts to achieve the sustainable development goals and to make our lives better. Mm-hmm. And that they have reaffirmed that they will continue to lend what they consider modest solidarity. But it's not modest. It's tremendous. And more than that, Johnny P., it's unconditional.
Right.
And they do have a love for the people of St. Vincent and the Grenadines. And I'm pleading with all our Vincentians not to get sidetracked. And just those elements we want to create conflict and disorder, talk to the authorities. And importantly, if it's a family member, tell them they must stop that foolishness. Mm-hmm. Stop that criminal kind of behavior against our Cuban brothers and sisters who are here doing good service.
In some police news now, we hear that the police have launched an investigation into the discovery of a partially decomposed body on Thomas Island, just outside of the Clifton Harbor in Union Island in the southern Grenadines. The police say the body was discovered by a sea captain about 4 p.m. on Tuesday, September 26, 2023. The deceased was later identified as Russell Douglas, 73 years, of Union Island. The body was transported to the Kingston mortuary, where a post-mortem examination will be conducted to ascertain the cause of death. Members of the public who have information that can assist with the investigation are encouraged to contact the officer in charge of the Grenadines Division. Police investigators are also probing the discovery of the body of a male that was found in Carib Mountain, Camden Park on Wednesday, September 27, 2023, about 1:50 p.m. A news release says on arrival at the scene, the police met the motionless body lying face down with what appeared to be several gunshot wounds. The deceased was later identified as Augustus Prince, 36 years, of Murray's Village. Prince was last seen alive earlier the said day in Murray's Village. A post-mortem examination is also expected to be conducted on the body to ascertain the cause of death. Members of the public who have information that can assist with the investigation are encouraged to contact the Criminal Investigations Department, the Major Crimes Unit, or the officer in charge of the Central Division. The police say all calls will be treated confidentially. And in more police news, investigations are ongoing into the circumstances surrounding the shooting of a 43-year-old laborer of Greg's on Wednesday, September 27th. The police say preliminary investigations indicate that John was at the home of a friend in an area known as Big Yard when an unknown assailant fired multiple gunshots at him, and as a result, he sustained an injury to his chest. John was taken to the Levi Latham Health Center for medical attention. He was later transferred to the Milton Cato Memorial Hospital for further treatment and observation. The police are urging persons with useful information to contact the officer in charge of the South Central Division or any police station or police officer you are comfortable with. The police say all information will be dealt with confidentially. And the Ministry of Health, Wellness and the Environment is urging the general public to wear blue tomorrow, Friday, September 29, 2023. In a news release, the ministry says it is part of efforts to bring awareness to prostate cancer by impressing upon Vincentian men 40 years and older to get screened for prostate cancer rather than waiting on the signs and symptoms. According to the ministry, prostate cancer is one of the leading causes of cancer deaths in St. Vincent and the Grenadines, and early detection is key to giving men a fighting chance. The ministry further notes that while we take this time to honor the lives ended too soon, we must act now by redoubling our efforts to end prostate cancer as we know it. The ministry is encouraging all Vincentian male who are at greater risk or those 40 years and older to visit their nearest health center or private physician and ask about prostate cancer. This month is being observed as Prostate Cancer Awareness Month.